The porch light blinked twice before settling into a weak yellow hum. That should have been my first warning. Houses don't flicker like that unless something inside is already unstable. I stood there anyway, coat sleeve damp from the snow melt gift bag cutting into my wrist. I remember thinking just one night, one meal, one performance of belonging. That was before my brother looked at me and decided I didn't count. If you've ever had family treat you like you don't matter, like you're optional, replaceable, invisible, hit the like button. Subscribe if you know what it's like to show up with your hands full and leave with nothing. And tell me where you're listening from. I read those comments. Every single one. The dining room smelled like rosemary and burnt butter. The table was already set. 8 plates, polished, evenly spaced. None of them were for me. Marcus didn't even stand when I walked in. He leaned back in his chair, one ankle resting on his knee phone in his hand, like an extension of his palm. He glanced up just long enough to register my face, then smiled at someone behind me. Not at me. Past me. "Just so we're clear," he said loud enough for the whole room, "this year's dinner is for real family only." The word landed wrong. Real. It scraped on the inside of my chest. I waited. Maybe he'd laugh. Maybe this was one of his jokes, poorly timed but harmless in the end. Nobody laughed. Plates clinked. Someone poured wine. The dishwasher hummed in the background, steady and indifferent. I said his name once. Marcus. He finally looked directly at me. His eyes were calm. That's what scared me. Don't make this awkward, Lena. My mother didn't look up from the counter. She was slicing bread slow and precise, as if the knife required her full attention. "You should have called first," she said. Not unkindly. Worse. Casually. "I did," I said. 3 times. She shrugged. A small movement. Dismissive. Well, plans change. Something in my throat tightened. I stepped closer to the table, reaching for the empty chair at the end, the one I'd always sat in. My sleeve brushed a wine glass. It chimed softly. Marcus watched my hand on the chair back. Then he stood up and moved faster than I expected. He pulled the chair away from the table and slid it against the wall. Hard. Wood-scraped tile. "No," he said. "Not tonight." That was the first snap. Quiet. Internal. Like a hairline fracture. I looked around the table. My aunt wouldn't meet my eyes. My cousin stared into his lap like the answers might be hiding there. My stepfather took a long sip of wine and said nothing. I turned to my mother. "You're okay with this?" She set the knife down. Finally faced me. Her mouth tightened the way it always did when she'd already decided and didn't want to be questioned. "Lena, you're 33. You live alone. You're doing fine. Let your brother have one holiday without tension." "Tension," I echoed. She gestured vaguely at me, at my coat, at my presence. "This. You always make things heavy." Marcus smiled. That smile. The one that said he'd won before the game even started. I felt my fingers curl, nails into palm. I loosened them before they left marks. "I brought food," I said. "I brought gifts." He shrugged. "We're covered." My mother reached past me and took the bag from my hand. She didn't even look inside. She carried it to the kitchen and set it on the counter next to the dog bowl. The dog, my mother's new obsession, sniffed eagerly, tail thumping. "Boomer's been picky," she said. "This might help." Then she tipped the contents of the bag into the bowl. I stood there and watched the dog eat the bread I'd made that morning, watched crumbs scatter across the tile, watched my mother smile and scratch behind his ears like she'd solved a small problem. That was the second snap. Louder, sharper. Marcus leaned in close, his voice low now. "Private. Don't take it personally. You're just extra. Extra. Like a side dish. Like clutter." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't ask them to explain. I picked up my coat from the chair where I draped it and turned toward the door. My mother sighed. "You're being dramatic." I paused with my hand on the knob. The metal was cold. Grounding. "I came home," I said. "That's all. Nobody followed me out." The door closed behind me with a soft, final click. No slam. No echo, just quiet. The driveway lights buzzed. Snow crunched under my boots. I sat in my car for a full minute without starting the engine, breathing fog onto the windshield. My phone buzzed once. A text from Marcus. "Don't do anything stupid." I laughed. A short sound, no humor in it. Inside the house, through the window, I could see them sit down to eat. Plates lifted, forks moving. The chair at the end, still empty, pushed against the wall like it had never belonged. That was when it hit me, not like a wave, but like a switch flipping. Clean. Decisive. I wasn't upset. I was done. I started the car. The engine turned over, smoothly obedient. As I pulled away, my phone buzzed again. My mother this time. "You'll regret making a scene." I didn't answer. I didn't look back. The house shrank in the rearview mirror lights, glowing warm for everyone except me. The road ahead was dark, unlit, stretching out into something unknown. And for the first time that night, my hands stopped shaking. The motel sign buzzed like a dying insect. One letter flickered on and off, casting a pulse of red across the parking lot. I pulled into the far corner, backed in out of habit, and shut off the engine. The silence afterward rang in my ears. Room 214, ground floor. The kind of place where the carpet never quite dries and the air smells faintly of bleach and old smoke. I locked the door. Then I locked it again. Chain. Chair under the handle. Only then did I set my bag down. My phone felt heavier than it should have, like it already knew what I was about to see. I sat on the edge of the bed, coat still on, and opened the banking app. The loading circle spun. Once, twice. Then the numbers appeared. At first, I thought it was a glitch. That familiar, stupid hope. That reflex to assume the problem was me, my misunderstanding, my poor timing, my overreaction. I scrolled. A charge from a private car service. Not mine. I drive myself. Another swipe. High-end steakhouse. 4 people. I hadn't been invited. Another. Boutique liquor store. A case, not a bottle. My thumb slowed. The room felt smaller. I tapped into the joint account, the one my mother insisted we keep for emergencies, the one I'd been contributing to since my first real paycheck, the one Marcus had once laughed about, calling it our family safety net. The list kept going. Designer hotel. 2 nights. Marcus's city. A consulting invoice. Vague description. His startup's name buried in the memo line like an afterthought. I didn't breathe. I just scrolled. There it was again. The startup. Different vendor. Same pattern. Expenses disguised as operations. Personal indulgences dressed up as growth. My reflection stared back at me from the black glass of the phone screen, pale, still, not crying. That surprised me. I expected shame, that familiar heat in my chest, the voice that always whispered, "You should have known better. You let this happen." It didn't come. Instead, something else slid into place. Quiet, clear. I opened my notes app and started writing. Date, amount, merchant, memo, click, screenshot, scroll, screenshot. The motel's heater kicked on with a rattle, blowing stale warm air across my ankles. Somewhere down the hall, a television laughed too loudly. I stayed where I was anchored to the edge of the bed, documenting everything like evidence. Another charge. Dry cleaning. Premium service. Rush. I pictured Marcus's suits, the way he liked to complain about wrinkles, about how presentation mattered. Another. Electronics store. Top-of-the-line laptop. Charged to the account I'd funded last month. I checked the timestamp. Earlier that day, while I was on the road, while I was driving back, stupidly hopeful with bread on the passenger seat, that one landed deeper than the rest. I paused, set the phone face down, pressed my palms into my knees, counted my breaths until my heart rate slowed. This wasn't new. That was the realization that finally settled in. This hadn't started tonight, or last week, or even this year. I scrolled further back. Vacation rentals, flights, business dinners in cities I'd never been to. Small withdrawals frequent enough to blend into the background if you weren't looking too closely. If you trusted. I let out a short breath through my nose, almost a laugh. Trust, that was the word they used every every time I hesitated, every time I asked a question. Don't you trust your family? Don't be so cold. Don't make everything about money. Money. The thing they never stopped spending. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. We didn't mean it like that. You're sensitive. I didn't reply. Another buzz. Marcus, you didn't have to leave like that. I flipped the phone face down again. Not out of fear, out of focus. Back to the app. I tapped into the credit card tied to the account. My name, my credit score, their charges, a luxury gym membership, Marcus's neighborhood, a pet boutique, my mother's dog, custom accessories. That one made my jaw tighten. Not because of the money, because of the message. You're not invited to dinner, but your card is. I took another screenshot, then another. I wasn't shaking anymore. My hands moved steadily, deliberately, like muscle memory taking over. I checked balances, ran the math in my head, what I'd contributed versus what had been taken. The numbers weren't even close. For the first time, I didn't ask myself why they did this. I asked myself how long it had been happening. The answer sat there in clean rows of transactions stretching back years. I thought about every time I'd skipped something for myself, every maybe next month, every time I'd wired money without asking too many questions because it was easier than dealing with the fallout. A memory surfaced, my mother's voice sharp and offended. After all we've done for you, I almost smiled. My phone buzzed again, Marcus this time calling. I let it ring. Watched the name flash on the screen until it stopped. A voicemail notification appeared. I didn't open it. Instead, I went back to the account overview and stared at the freeze button. It glowed there. Neutral. Patient. Not yet. That was the surprising part. I wasn't angry enough to act impulsively. I wanted to understand the full shape of it first, the scope, the pattern. I finished my list, double-checked my screenshots, backed them up to the cloud, then emailed everything to myself from a secure address I'd set up years ago and barely used. The motel room hummed around me. The refrigerator clicked on. Somewhere a car door slammed. I set the phone down and leaned back against the headboard. The vinyl was cracked cold through my sweater. For the first time that night, I felt something close to calm. Not relief, not peace, clarity. They hadn't pushed me out because I didn't belong. They'd pushed me out because I was useful, and usefulness doesn't require a seat at the table. I picked up my phone one last time and typed a single line into my notes, underlined it twice. Stop paying, start watching. Then I turned off the light and lay back on the bed, eyes open in the dark, listening to the buzz of the sign outside. The pain was still there, dull, heavy, but it was no longer in control. I was. The motel clock glowed 1:12 a.m. Red numbers. Too bright. Too calm for what was about to happen. I sat on the bed with my laptop open and my phone face down beside it, like a weapon I hadn't picked up yet. Outside, a semi roared past on the highway, the sound stretching and thinning until it disappeared. The room settled back into its low hum. That was when I called Naomi. She picked up on the second ring. No greeting, no hesitation. You okay? No, I said. The word came out clean. But I'm ready. There was a pause, a small inhale on her end. Naomi didn't ask for context. She never did. We'd met years ago, back when she was a junior associate, and I was the one explaining spreadsheets to men twice my age who didn't listen. We'd learned each other's rhythms the hard way. Screen share, she said. Now. I flipped my laptop around, logged in, and hit the button. My banking dashboard filled the screen rows of numbers lined up like soldiers waiting for orders. Naomi leaned closer to her camera. I could see the reflection of my balances in her glasses. Her hair was pulled back, sleeves rolled up, midnight lawyer mode. Okay, she said calmly. First question, are any of these accounts restricted by trust or guardianship? None. Any written agreement authorizing Marcus to use joint funds for business? None. Any consent for personal expenses charged as operational costs? None. Good. A faint smile. Sharp. Then we're not debating feelings. We're executing corrections. My pulse slowed. Just a little. She talked me through it like a pilot reading a checklist. Start with access, she said. Not money. Access. I clicked into permissions. Names populated the screen. Mine, my mother's, Marcus's. Remove Marcus, Naomi said. Temporary restriction. Reason suspected misuse. I hesitated for half a second. The old reflex flared. What if this makes things worse? Then I remembered the dog bowl, the chair against the wall. Click. A red banner flashed. Access suspended. My chest tightened, then eased, like something had finally snapped into alignment. Next, Naomi said, Your mother. I swallowed. She'll notice. She already noticed everything she wanted to, Naomi replied. Click. I did. Another banner. Another lock. The room felt quieter after that, as if the system itself had exhaled. Now balances, Naomi said. Tell me what you put in. I didn't have to check. I knew the number. I'd known it for years. She nodded. Transfer only that amount. Label it clearly. No drama in the memo. I typed slowly, deliberately. Return of personal contributions. Routing number. My personal account. Confirm. My phone buzzed on the bed. I ignored it. The transfer queued. Pending. Good, Naomi said. Now the fun part. She pulled up a separate window on her screen, an email draft. Formal, clean, no emotion anywhere in it. To the stakeholders of Heart Dynamics, she read aloud. This notice serves to inform you of a material change affecting the company's financial structure. I watched my brother's dream unravel in 12-point font. She attached the transaction history, highlighted entries. My name circled in yellow. Send, she said. I nodded. She clicked. The email disappeared into the ether, carrying years of quiet documentation with it. That should do it, Naomi said, leaning back. By morning they'll freeze operations pending review. I stared at the screen. That's it. She met my eyes through the camera. That's everything. The first call came 7 minutes later. Marcus. I didn't answer. Another buzz, then another. My mother this time, then Marcus again. Rapid fire, panicked. Naomi held up a hand. Don't. I won't. I said, and I meant it. We watched the dashboard together as if it were a live broadcast. At 1:47 a.m., a new notification slid in. Payment declined. Vendor Heart Dynamics. Naomi smiled. There it is. Another alert. Account under review. Another. Automatic hold placed. Each one landed like a quiet thud. No shouting, no confrontation, just doors closing one after another because rules had finally been applied. At 2:03 a.m., Naomi's inbox chimed. She opened it, scanned, then let out a short breath through her nose. Their primary partner just requested a call at 8 a.m. I pictured Marcus pacing his apartment, refreshing his email, watching the numbers change without understanding why. Anything else we should do, I asked. Naomi shook her head. Now we wait. Systems hate uncertainty. They'll default to caution. She paused, studying my face. You holding up? I checked in with myself. Really checked. I'm steady, I said. That's new. She nodded. It won't last, but it's enough for tonight. We disconnected. The room felt too still afterward. I walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face. My reflection looked sharper, older, awake in a way I hadn't been in years. When I came back out, my phone was vibrating across the bed. Marcus again. I answered this time. What did you do? His voice was hoarse, stripped of its usual confidence. I corrected an error, I said. You can't just... He stopped, took a breath, tried again. You're sabotaging family. I leaned against the dresser. You said I wasn't family. Silence. Then softer, calculated. This is going to ruin everything. I glanced at the laptop, at the locked icons, the pending transfers, the clean lines of accountability. No, I said. It's just making it accurate. He hung up. My phone lit up again immediately. My mother this time. Lena, she said, breathless. There's been some kind of mistake. The accounts... There hasn't, I said. A pause. Then the tone shifted. The one I knew best. You're overreacting. This could have been handled privately. I tried privately, I said. For years. She scoffed. You always take things too far. I looked around the motel room. At the chair wedged under the door, at the flickering light outside, at the evidence saved in 3 places. "No," I said. I stopped taking them nowhere. She hung up. The calls stopped after that. At 3:18 a.m., another email came through. Subject line, "Temporary suspension of operations." I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The project wasn't paused because I was angry. It was paused because it couldn't survive daylight. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. The cracks formed a map I didn't bother to follow. For the first time in a long time, nothing was demanded of me. No explanations, no rescues, no transfers disguised as love. Just a system doing exactly what it was built to do when someone finally told it the truth. And somewhere, I knew Marcus wasn't sleeping. Neither was my mother. But for the first time, that wasn't my problem. The knock came at 5:41 a.m., not polite, not patient. A sharp, flat sound knuckles against cheap wood too hard for that hour. The kind of knock that assumes the door will open because it always has. My eyes snapped open before the second knock landed. I didn't move. I sat up in bed and listened. Another knock, louder. Then a voice. "Lena, open the door!" "Marcus." I slid out of bed, slowly, bare feet on cold tile. The motel room smelled like burnt coffee and disinfectant. Dawn hadn't reached the windows yet. Everything was still gray, unfinished. I checked the lock. Deadbolt, chain, chair still wedged under the handle. "Good. Lena," my mother's voice followed tight and urgent. "We know you're in there." Of course they did. I stepped to the peephole. Marcus stood closest to the door jacket, thrown over a wrinkled shirt, eyes bloodshot. He was holding a crumpled receipt like evidence. My mother stood just behind him, purse clutched against her chest, hair pinned back too neatly for someone who claimed this was an emergency. They looked tired, angry, offended, not worried. Marcus knocked again, rattling the chain. "You froze the cards. I was at the pump. Mid-transaction." I didn't answer. My mother leaned forward, peering at the peephole as if she could see through it. "This isn't funny, Lena. We drove all night." I stayed silent. "Your brother needs access," she continued. "You can't just cut him off." I rested my forehead briefly against the door. The wood was cool, solid. Marcus's voice sharpened. "You're holding family money hostage. Family money." I straightened and spoke through the door, my voice even. "You said I wasn't family." There was a beat. Then Marcus scoffed. "Don't twist things." "I'm not," I said. "I'm repeating them." My mother sighed long and theatrical. "You're 33 years old, no kids, no dependents. What do you even need all this money for?" There it was, the line they always used, the one that turned my life into a placeholder. Temporary. Less than. For stability, I said. "Which I'm no longer funding for you." Marcus kicked the bottom of the door. Not hard enough to break it, just hard enough to intimidate. "Open the door," he said. "We're talking face to face." "No," I said. "You can't hide in a motel forever." "I'm not hiding," I said. "I'm staying put." My phone buzzed in my hand. Missed calls stacked up. I didn't look at them. My mother's voice dropped soft now. Manipulative. "Lena, sweetheart, this is getting out of hand. People are asking questions. Partners. Banks." "Good," I said. She stiffened. I could hear it in her breathing. "You don't understand how things work." "I do," I said. "That's why I stopped them." Marcus laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. "You think you're smarter than everyone?" "No," I said. I think I was quieter. The silence after that felt heavier. Then my mother snapped. "After everything we've done for you." I closed my eyes. That sentence had chased me my entire life. I opened them and looked at the chain on the door, the small gap it allowed, enough to see them, not enough to let them in. I didn't ask for anything, I said. "You just took." Marcus rattled the handle. "You're being cruel." I glanced at the clock. 5:46 a.m. "This is harassment," I said calmly. "You should leave." My mother scoffed. "Oh, please. We're your family." I picked up the phone and dialed the front desk. The ringing cut through the hallway like a blade. "Yes," I said when the clerk answered. "Room 214. I have 2 people outside my door refusing to leave." My mother's eyes widened when she heard my voice through the door. "You wouldn't." "I would," I said. Marcus leaned close to the peephole, his face distorted through the lens. "You're really doing this?" "Yes." The clerk's voice crackled faintly through the phone. "Security's on the way, ma'am." My mother's mouth tightened. "You're embarrassing us." I didn't respond. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Heavy, measured. 2 uniformed security guards appeared behind them, radios clipped to their shoulders. The taller one spoke first. "Sir, ma'am, you need to step away from the door." "This is a misunderstanding," my mother said quickly. "She's upset." Marcus pointed at the door. "She stole our money." The guard didn't react. "That's a civil matter. This is private property." Marcus's jaw clenched. "We're not leaving." The shorter guard stepped closer. "Final warning." My mother grabbed Marcus's arm. "Let's go," she hissed. He shrugged her off. "You're choosing this over us," he called through the door. I leaned closer so my voice carried clearly. "You chose first." The guards escorted them down the hallway. Marcus kept talking, words spilling out threats, promises, half-formed plans. "You'll regret this." My mother didn't look back. She clutched her purse tighter as they turned the corner. The stairwell door slammed shut. The hallway fell quiet. A moment later, a knock gentler this time. "All clear, ma'am," the guard said through the door. "Thank you," I replied. When I finally sat back down on the bed, my hands were steady. No shaking, no second guessing. I opened my notes app and typed the time, the names, what was said. Then I locked the phone and set it aside. Outside, an engine started. Tires spit gravel. Then the sound faded. I lay back and stared at the ceiling. My mother had said one last thing as she was pulled away. Not loud, not dramatic. "You'll be alone like this." I smiled just slightly. I already was. The difference now was that I'd chosen it. The email arrived at 6:09 a.m., sliding onto my screen like a quiet accusation. New account approved. My name, my address. A limit I hadn't asked for. I didn't panic. That surprised me too. I sat at the small desk by the window motel, coffee cooling beside my elbow, and opened the alert slowly. Line by line. Transaction history already populated. A casino charge, 5 figures, time-stamped 2:14 a.m., an electronics retailer, laptops, high-end, overnight delivery, a rideshare receipt from Marcus's neighborhood. It was almost elegant in its stupidity. He hadn't tried to talk to me. He hadn't apologized. He'd gone straight for what he thought would hurt most: my credit, my stability, the clean life I'd built quietly while he borrowed against it. I took a screenshot, then another. Then I forwarded the alert to Naomi with one line: "He's escalating." She called in under 30 seconds. "Don't touch anything," she said. "We document first." "I already am." "Good," she said. "You ready to end this?" I looked out the window. Dawn had finally reached the parking lot. The motel sign was off now, dull metal in daylight, nothing glamorous left to hide behind. "Yes," I said. "I'm done explaining." By 7:02 a.m., my credit was frozen. Hard stop, no new accounts, no soft inquiries. Naomi walked me through every screen like a surgeon narrating an incision. "Fraud alert active," she said. "Permanent." I watched the confirmation banners stack up. Green check marks, timestamps, control returning in small, precise increments. At 8:17, we were at the precinct downtown. Fluorescent lights, scuffed floors, a waiting room that smelled like old paper and burnt coffee. I told the detective exactly what happened. No adjectives, no emotion. Dates, amounts, evidence printed and organized in a neat stack. Marcus's name didn't sound powerful in that room. It sounded small, administrative. The detective nodded, typed, slid a form across the desk. "Identity misuse," he said. "This qualifies." I signed, black ink, firm. Next stop was a civil clerk's office 2 floors up. Naomi didn't sit. She paced while I filled out the paperwork. "Grounds?" the clerk asked. "Financial harassment," I said. "Credible threat of further misuse." She stamped the page. "Temporary order granted. Served within 48 hours. 500 feet. No contact." I folded the paper carefully and placed it in my bag. Marcus didn't know it yet, but the board he was standing on had just been removed. By noon, the charges were reversing. The casino flagged the chips. The electronics retailer halted delivery. The credit issuer closed the account and zeroed the balance. Naomi checked her phone and smiled thinly. He tried to call the bank. I imagined it, the rage, the confusion, the familiar insistence that rules bend for him. They didn't, she added. At 1:26 p.m., my mother texted, "This has gone too far." I didn't respond. At 2:04, Marcus left a voicemail. I didn't listen. I archived it unread. The silence afterward felt different this time. Not heavy, not loaded, clean. 2 weeks later, I walked past the old house on my way to the train. A foreclosure notice was staked into the front lawn, bright and official. The grass had gone brown uncut, windows dark. A dissolution notice was taped to the mailbox. Marcus's company. Effective immediately. No assets, no future. I stood there for a moment, hands in my coat pockets, and felt nothing I could name. No triumph, no grief, just distance. That night in my new apartment, I unpacked the last box. It was small, quiet, overlooked the river, the kind of place no one would drop by unannounced. I logged into my accounts one final time. Personal only. No joint anything. No shared risk. No vague obligations disguised as love. I closed each old file, deleted archived contacts, updated passwords. Then I opened my journal and wrote 2 lines. Portfolio separated. Position 0. I underlined it once. That was enough. The city hummed outside, indifferent and alive. I turned off the lamp and sat in the dark for a while listening. Family, I'd learned, isn't a title you owe yourself into debt for. It isn't a seat you keep warm while others eat. And it isn't something that gets to hollow you out and call it loyalty. If a place drains you dry and calls it love, you are allowed to leave. I did. And nothing followed me out the door.